Hi, this is Kiyomi Emi. I'm with IndieExpress.com, and I'm here with Sabine Gemayel, who is the writer and the director of NILOOFAR. Hello.
Hello.
And tell us about the film.
NILOOFAR is an Iraqi-based story. It's the story of this young teenager who's wanting to read and write in a village where education is only for boys. Meanwhile, her father arranges her to marry an older man, and wants to become a woman. And it's the story of this young girl not wanting to become a woman and what she tries to do to not become a woman until eventually it happens, and she has to deal with it.
And how old is the young girl?
12 in the film, and she was 12 in reality as well.
Yeah. And there's a point in the film, in the plot, where she prevents herself from becoming this woman. So tell us about that sort of transformation and the prevention of the young girl.
Well, it's very childish. Her friend tells her that she has eggs in her body, and that if she tightens a scarf around her belly, maybe the eggs won't grow and she won't become a woman. So she tries that.
That's fascinating. How did you find out about that sort of that element that the girls do that?
They don't do that. It's totally fictional. I don't know. It just came in the writing process. I just thought, how could a child think she could stop herself from becoming a woman? And I thought that would be something that I think I would do if I had to think of something like that.
So in creating this film, how did you come up with the character name of Nilo?
NILOOFAR means lotus flower, and lotus flower is a symbol of renewal and blossoming, and also it grows in water. In the film there's a water birth, so it was all the element of combining the femininity, the water, the renewal, and the quest for creating one's own future.
Right. And did you experience, because you grew up in Tehran, right? You grew up in Iran.
Well, I grew up in Iran and Lebanon.
Oh, in Lebanon. Okay.
Yeah.
So did you experience the elements of being this young girl and the transformation and the suppression of lack of education?
Directly, personally, not at all. My mother is half French, my father is Lebanese, and I come from an, educated family. And but I have encountered girls that were in poor situations or similar situations. I was living near an orphanage where there was, in Lebanon, after a war, there were a lot of orphans. So that was not that they were deprived, but they were, had difficulties. However, when I was a teenager, the inspiration of the film is this teenager who was in a situation where she was 15 and she was going to marry an older man. And at the time, I was trying with my friend. We were both half French and Lebanese, and telling her that she could escape, she could leave, she could create her own future, and from her, low-class environment, she couldn't imagine such a thing. And that's where the inspiration comes from, I guess.
Yeah, it's a way for people to escape, like any other, in lots of countries where the lower class, the women get to experience another life. How much older are these men?
Well, it depends. They don't have to be that old. Some of them, and I'm in the film, I was very careful not to get into the cliche of the 70-year-old man, like in some films that you see, or in reality it can happen. In fact, he's actually quite handsome in the film, which I thought made sense, because that makes the choice more difficult, because some of them are handsome and rich, and the lives of those girls may be much better. And I think from a parental point of view, parents are trying to protect their children, which is what the father says in the film. She'll have a much better future with this guy than if she studies. So I think it comes originally from a need to protect their children. And the lack of education mostly comes from economical difficulties, not only religious beliefs, but in small countries, in small villages, there are primary schools, but the secondary school is harder because it's usually in a bigger city or bigger village, and the girl would have to take the bus to travel to that bigger village, and that's where she could lose her honor, or she could, encounter some man, or something could happen to her. So that's why parents don't send their children. And also because, once a girl becomes a teenager, she can help in house chores.
I wanted to talk to you about how you came up with the concept of shooting the film. It's beautifully shot. The scenes are gorgeous and the coloring is amazing. So tell us about your shooting of the film and how you directed and dealt with the characters. This is not your first film, correct? Is this your first film?
My first film, yeah. It's my first feature film. Well, at first I got there with my shooting my shots and my ideas of the scenes, and I spoke with the director of photography over there, and he said, you know what, we don't work like this. We just go on the set, we find where we're going to place the camera, and we just shoot. I said, you know what, you guys, I have to be prepared. I have to have my shots. And he's like, yeah, but it's going to change. I said, well, if I know what I want to shoot, when I get there, I might be able to be more flexible and find another way of shooting it. So that was something I needed, that's preparation. And ultimately, I learned to be more flexible and adapt to the environment. And also, you were mentioning the colors. The colors were very important to me because a lot of Persian films are monochromatic. They're shot in color, but it's mostly gray tones and sand tones and brown and black. And when you go to Tehran, everything is like that. The buildings, the coats, the bags, there's no colors. But when you go in rural areas, there is colors. And it was very difficult to have my production designer and my DP understand my need for color in the film, because for them it wasn't in reality. And I was like, well, look at, I kind of taught them what I wanted to see for the colors, and they ended up seeing all the colors that there are in the villages. The doors are painted, the frames of the windows are painted in colors, and some women, they wear black, but they have a red thing on their dress or something. So we used really local, clothing and a local house. But once I explained that concept of colors, they worked fantastically well with it. Like there's this scene where there's a carpet in the film. You don't really see the carpet, but actually in the background there's all the yarn, all the colors of the yarn, and that creates the colors in the shot. It's there. It's just they're not used to seeing it.
Isn't that interesting how people aren't used to seeing things like that, and then when you bring it to life, you're like, no, I want to make it authentic. What would you say, your first film at AFI Festival, and congratulations on that, to a first-time filmmaker, what would your advice be?
To never give up, because I think that's what, it's so hard to make a film, especially a foreign film, to get the financing together, to get people interested in your story, to just make it is a challenge, and it takes faith. And sometimes the people who actually discourage you and tell you that it's going to be impossible, or that it's a very difficult thing to make, are actually very inspiring, because they define what you don't want or what you want, and the people who help you and the people who don't help you are as valuable.
Well, congratulations, Sabine. It's so nice to meet you, and best of luck with this film. It's a great film, and if you want to see it, everyone should go see it. NILOOFAR. And this is Kiyomi Emi with IndieExpress.com, signing off with my new friend, Sabine.